Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Hall, Jr. I'm going to be moderating the panel today, asking the big question, ask kids what they want, addressing the idea. And we've got a group of very impressive panelists. While I have sat on panels before, this is my first time moderating a panel, so bear with me as I hack my way through this. I would like to start by saying that in the released Project Play report, Tom Ferry has pointed out that video games and technology get blamed for sedentary behavioral habits, but then goes on to point how much the tech industry has invested to learn more and understand more exactly what kids want, what motivates them, and so this is a novel idea for youth sports groups. And so we're trying today to identify and take this tech industry approach of asking kids what they want and trying to figure out how we can apply that to youth sports in America. We have a very impressive group of panelists. I will start with Erin, sitting next to me. Erin Bryant is 15 years old. She's in the 9th grade. She is a participant in DC Scores, which is part of America Scores, yes? Mm-hmm. And it's a program that uses soccer and poetry to engage children. Next to her is Amanda Visek, and she is an associate professor, exercise science, George Washington University School of Public Health. And she's also the author of The Fun Integration Theory Towards Sustaining Children and Adolescents' Sports Participation. John West is the founder and CEO of Whistle Sports. Whistle Sports is a multi-channel network for young people, and he is also the father of 3 active young athletes. Eli Wolff is director of Inclusive Sports Initiative Institute for Human-Centered Design. He is the director at the Royce Fellowship for Sports and Society at Brown University. He has contributed to the United Nations Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities, and he is also a 1996 and 2004 Paralympic soccer team member. So thank you all for joining us and being with us here today. I am going to be asking each of the panelists 2 questions, and then we are going to open up the floor to the audience to hear from all of you. It's the goal is to elevate, as Tom mentioned, and develop 3 to 5 specific ideas that build upon the strategy of the Project Play platform to help stakeholders turn principle into practice. And it's an incredible attendee list, and I know that there's going to be some great contributions from the audience, so get ready for that. Let's start with John. John, The Whistle is a sports media company that has uniquely embraced current social media trends to promote physical activity, encouraging users to upload their own content to highlight feats of strength, endurance, and skill. Impressive numbers. Whistle Sports proudly claims 61 million fans and social media followers, growing at 2 million a week, 14 million YouTube subscribers, 27 million Facebook likes, 2 billion video views, and 65,000 videos capturing and promoting physical activity. I'm sure those numbers have changed since I started reading the statistics there, by a few thousand or so. Was forecasting social media trends intuitive for you, or was there a point when you went out and asked kids what they want?
Yes, great question. It was not intuitive. We launched Whistle Sports about 5 years ago, and the initial notion was that we felt that sports, if it could be entertaining, was inspiring and equipped kids with critical life skills that we in this room all know. But sports media largely was designed for and programmed for adults, and we felt like with 70 million under 18-year-olds in the US and close to 2 billion globally, there was a huge unserved market. And the initial business plan was a linear cable network. And we started doing market research in about 4 years ago and started to see the trend of youth dropping off of live TV and even dropping off of viewership of sports on live TV, moving towards digital and now social platforms. And they're there because social platforms allow for them to lean forward and to have a social conversation. Our demographic is a little older than Project Play. We're 13 to 24-year-olds. But it is the engagement that you can have if you have great athletes who put up videos and drive audiences is entertaining but also inspiring. Indy Cowie, who was one of our 200 partners, when she was in the room next door with the two parkour guys, one of our folks grabbed her camera and created a video and posted that to her Facebook and Instagram accounts. She has a total social reach followers of about 500,000. And in the first 5 minutes since posting that, 5,000 views have happened on that, which is interesting because I think most kids are supposed to be in school right now. But what we found is that there's a great opportunity to integrate screen time and the digital world that is so critical and important for youth today and their real world. And we've seen kids get up and run out and try and do a trick shot or try and do what Indy just did and videotape it and edit it and share it with their friends, and it drives this positive virtual loop that we focus intently on. As a parent, also focus on minimizing screen time, but that's not the only answer.
But no physical activity, no content, and that's really
Exactly.
Yeah. Eli Wolff. I met Eli at the first Project Play round table and was immediately impressed by his advocacy efforts. You'll be hard pressed to find someone more articulate or passionate about inclusive sport. Eli, please, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about your early childhood experience in sport and how it helped shape your vocation in life.
Oh, thanks so much. It's really an honor to be here, and all the great work that's been done by Project Play, and to have a platform to be able to share and to really have that component of inclusion and persons with disabilities be so much integrated into it so that it's not even a question anymore. Like, we have to recognize that people with disabilities and people of differences are just so much a part of it. For me, I think that was really the essence of my experience, because at some point you face challenges, you face barriers, you get to people that will say no, or they'll say, you can't do that, or you can't be a part of this team. And you realize, well, why? Why not? Like, what is, there's no excuse for being included, and so to be able to recognize that really it is that mindset shift. It's that ability to say that, this is actually part of the fabric. And if you look at our society, if you look at those things we said no to, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, of whether it's girls, whether it's different racial or ethnic minorities, if it's people with disabilities, you just recognize that times change, that you can actually embrace people. And so for me, in my Olympic experience, as an athlete, I started to realize that really there is this intersection. There's a support that can be made between athletes, be able to be supported by one another, whether it's, we had a really strong bond with the women's national team. The women's national team for soccer was one of our greatest advocates for the Paralympic team. We weren't even recognized by U.S. Soccer. They didn't actually even recognize Paralympics at all. And then the women's team. So there was that solidarity, that notion of coming together. So I guess my experience was one of realizing that, kids with disabilities, they do have this potential, that there is a desire to be a part of sport and physical activity and play. The kids with disabilities they want to be valued. They want to be accepted. They want to be seen as having, to being able to reach their potential. They don't want to be pitied. They don't want to be like, oh, well, we're going to, kind of let you go by. Kids with disabilities want to be challenged. They want to reach excellence just like anyone else. So, I think that's the key from my experience that I would say for as we begin to roll this out with Project Play, that this is just a part of the conversation. This is a just integral part. And so no more excuses. I think that would be a big thing I'd say.
Sticking with the question or the topic, did anybody in your sporting experience ask you what you want?
I think my mom, honestly, I had a conversation yesterday, about who are the biggest influencers to kind of help kids along the way. And I guess there was probably two people. One was my mom, who really, and my dad, they really were the ones that supported me. They had no excuses for me. So they were the ones that pushed me. The other one that was really important from a mentorship standpoint was, I had one coach, one coach who sort of saw that and connected me into a variety of opportunities, got me from kind of recreational sports into some of the Olympic opportunities. So, I was talking yesterday about it can be just one person that can really make a big difference.
All right, Amanda is a trained sports scientist practitioner with an extensive clinical and field experiences as a certified consultant of the Association for Applied Sports Psychology, with active status on the United States Olympic Committee Sports Psychology and Mental Training Registry. Amanda's research focus and applied practice has been making scientific advancements in our understanding of determinants and barriers to children's positive, fun sport experience. The fun maps. Amanda, the question I have for you is, do we need to ask kids what they want, or is it enough for trained research professionals to study behavioral trends data the way that Google might understand and even articulate better than actual teenagers themselves?
It's an excellent question. No, we absolutely have to ask kids what they want. What we want to do is we want to truly understand human behavior in the physical activity and sport context. And so we know that people are motivated to fulfill their needs, which then means that we have to make children's needs a number one priority. And so we have to ask them what it is that they want out of these experiences. And that was largely the impetus for the fun maps and the scientific study that we did, because if you look at the public health literature, if you look at the sports science literature, the number one reason why kids engage and use sport and they continue to play is because it's fun, right? When we look at the attrition and the dropout numbers, and we ask those kids why they're dropping out, the number one reason that they give is because it's not fun anymore. Right, so there's two sides to this fun coin. And so what we wanted to do was take a grassroots approach to really understanding what fun is. Because if we think about fun, we know when we have it and we know when we haven't had fun, right? And oftentimes parents or coaches will say, was that fun? And you get a yes or no response, right? Very closed. It's not a very robust answer. And so what we wanted to do was take fun as this abstract, emotive sort of experience and blow it up into tangible pieces that we could actually touch and act upon. And so the fun maps are essentially the evidence-based blueprints for the fun integration theory. So now we have a fully conceptual, grassroots, evolved theory that helps us understand truly how to engage kids and keep them engaged.
And do we have the infographic? I don't know if that can be shown. Basically, the fun maps that identifies how kids define fun, right? It was a foregone conclusion that adults and kids were defining fun similarly, and it turns out that it's not the case. Winning came in at 48th. Is that right?
Yes.
So maybe just briefly, quickly give us a little bit of an overview of the fun maps.
So the infographic that you see up on the screen right now, what Tom did was he took the 80, essentially, if you think about, what makes sports fun for kids. The sport community, kids, parents, coaches, they brainstormed all of the things And what it came down to was a finite set of 81 fun determinants, right? So fun, this one abstract concept, now gets parceled out into these actionable behaviors, right? So 81 is a lot. How do we make sense of all of those 81? We ask them to help us understand how they fit together. And so what we have here is essentially one handout that shows all of the fun determinants and the final concept map that it resulted in. And so each of these ideas is represented in each of these clusters. And so what the fun maps do is they provide directional beacons, if you will, when we're talking about trying to optimize children's experiences.
All right, Erin, it was pointed out to me that if you're going to have a panel discussion titled Ask Kids What They Want, that you better have a kid on the panel. What do you want?
Well, what I want is like a program that's going to be engaging and straightforward and show me more beneficial things that I can do in my life. For example, like I want to see what college opportunities they can give me and what social opportunities they can give me. Like what other kids outside of my school can I talk to, what other programs are out for me. And then also I would like a program that is like, I don't know, like it's hard to explain. Like very engaging. Like I want something that's fun and like I can connect with everybody. Like so I feel as though they should sit down with kids every week and like talk about what they want in their sports program. And then I want more varieties of sports. Like at my school we only have basketball, football, and volleyball, 3 sports. Like we should have more like a lacrosse team, a varsity volleyball team instead of just straightforward JV.
When they asked you to be on a panel discussion, asking kids what they want, how did that make you feel?
Like, it felt good because I feel as though I have a voice now and I can speak up and I can show my point of view on how I see this and see, like, help adults see how it's beneficial to have kids speak up.
And one more very quick question before we open it up for the question and answer session. Can you tell me about your sport career highlight?
Okay, so I started sports in my 2nd grade year at Arts and Technology Academy before it turned to KIPP DC Quest. So I started in the fitness club. It was like an after-school program for an hour. We sat down and we went to different stations. So we had Dance Revolution, a jump rope station, a soccer station. And one day we went outside. It was the beginning of my 3rd grade year. Went outside. My DC Scores coach was also my fitness coach. So he came up to me one day and was like, "Erin, you should join DC Scores." And I was asking, "What is that?" He was like, "It's an opportunity for you to meet more kids, and it's like a soccer program mixed with poetry." And I was like, "Poetry? Oh, that sounds nice, so it's like." And then, like, I continued on, and it, like, opened my eyes to show, like, I have potential, and that I can do what I want to do and, like, still succeed in life. And 8th grade year was my final year in DC Schools, so I had to make that last performance at the Poetry Slam, my finest. And, yeah, it's like, it helped me become a better scholar, because in class, they like set standards for you to have certain grades and to stay focused and to make sure your behavior is tight. So, yeah.
Nice. So we're opening up now for the audience. It's my job to help all of you understand how to take meaningful actions within your own organizations or sectors consistent with the strategy that our panel is focused on, asking kids what they want. It's less about discussing the topic or promoting a personal agenda than it is about helping leaders develop ideas in this space. So think of this as a brainstorming session. Our panel is seeding the conversation with compelling ideas and can offer technical advice or build upon ideas that you, the audience members, present. There are no bad ideas unless they're coming from me. I own that category. So speak up and be audacious, as they encourage here at the Aspen Institute. There will be a couple of roving microphones. If you see someone holding one, we're promoting physical activity. Feel free to tackle them. Make sure it's a heads-up tackle. We don't want any injuries. Yeah, the second question really that we're going to be asking is, what do you see as the best opportunities for stakeholders in this space? That's it's simplified. So if you have suggestions or comments or questions, please feel free to raise a hand, and I'll do my best to point out. Let's start there.
Here's a microphone.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Rumbaugh. I'm the co-founder of Let's Play America and live locally in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And for 6 years, we've been doing grassroots play. And for the committee, the panel, I have a suggestion for you. Create community play events by forming a play committee. Include children, of course. Play days, close streets for play, events at play spaces, and creating play before school, during lunch, during recess, and after school. P.S. Give kids choices. Thank you.
All right. Eli, do you want to weigh in on how do you engage stakeholders in something like that?
Yeah, no, I think that in terms of having more play kind of at a national level or really integrating it community by community, I do think it takes, the local networks. I don't know how each cities around the country are really coming together. I know, I've been in Boston and Chicago and DC, and, sometimes I do sense that sometimes there can be silos. And so to the extent that we can actually, form those kind of networks, those kind of coalitions to be able to, bring people together. I mean, one of the things, I work a lot internationally as well, and we were able to, a number of international organizations came together to form the International Day of Sport and Play, which is April 6th. So April 6th is now on the calendar through the international system is the International Day of Sport and Play. And, we are now in a process of thinking about, how do people know about this day? How do we mobilize people? How do we think about, the structures and opportunities? What are the themes? So right now we have a theme around youth. We have a theme around gender, disability, peace building, education. So we have some sort of thematic areas so that people can then begin to activate at local levels. But in terms of the US, in terms of how we activate nationally here, I think it would be amazing if we did have something like, take April 6th or take different benchmark days. Olympic Day is June 23rd. So really being able to mobilize on some of the existing infrastructures, but really to ground the play conversation. If we can push play into the dialogue, I think, and utilizing local networks, I think that's a really important solution.
Yeah. Amanda, you've taken a report, a white paper, your findings, and it has gotten national media attention with Fox News, ABC, NBC, the Washington Post, so many other publications. How did you do that?
Magic.
But how do you translate scientific findings into something that can be featured in a 30-second news segment or even potentially on the whistle? Right. Make it exciting, engaging.
So what we did is we started first with a press release that sort of accompanied the scientific paper. And so that got pushed out to media, and then interested media contacted us and then set up interviews, and we went that method. But in addition to that, we also took another sort of three-pronged approach. And so for national organizations that I either maybe had some contact with or had no contact with, I reached out and said, hey, I think that your organization could really benefit from this data. If you're interested in talking more about it, let me know. And a lot of them would reach back. And so I've been able to develop a lot of great relationships with, the PCA, the U.S. Olympic Committee, Nike, all kinds of, everyone that's kind of gathered here today, actually, as leaders and stakeholders. And then through the scientific community with public health and with sports science, doing as many conference presentations, disseminating the information so that we can learn from each other. And then also from really a grassroots standpoint. So just last night I was in Howard County and doing a workshop for the Howard County lacrosse program. So I was invited out there from another symposium that I had done previously, and you make these connections. And you know, someone who is on the board for Howard County lacrosse, who grew up in this area and then went away for 25 years and then came back and said, whoa, the youth sport climate here has changed and we need to do something about it. And so I came out, gave a workshop using the fun maps, teaching the coaches and the parents and the administrators and the audience how to use them and how to integrate them. And so we've really taken both a top-down and a bottom-up approach to trying to get the information out as much as possible.
Yeah. And there's so many in this in the audience that can help leverage valuable data that's out there to change policy, and we encourage that. Yes, a question over here.
Yes, my name is Will Metzger. 2 years ago, my son was injured playing lacrosse. And an injury I subsequently found out was completely avoidable. And as I was working with, talking to the doctor, he said, yeah, my waiting room is filled with what kids and parents and coaches don't know about keeping kids safe playing sports. And when you look at it, we all know 10 million injuries every year, 20 million school days lost, $30 billion in healthcare costs. So what I did was started to talk to kids and say, how do we address this situation? You talk to parents and coaches and kids. And what kids will tell you is you make it fun. So doctors will tell you that there are strength conditioning exercises that kids can do that basically says, the medical study shows that injuries can be reduced by 50%. ACL injuries, especially girls, are 5 times more likely by 70%. But how do you get kids to do these kind of strength conditioning exercises? Talk to a kid, put it in an app. So it's in an app. The kids can go there, see the strength conditioning exercise to be done by age, gender, and sport, because the injury profile is different. That's great to have, so kids have the app, but how do you get kids to actually do it? So what we heard from Madeline, who talked about make it so kids can encourage each other. So there's a social component to it. Every kid who's on a team can encourage the other ones. Kids can basically create team spirit in the digital world the same way that it's in the virtual world. And the next part, and what Monet said, is make it rewarding. So we have done it for soccer. We're working with Eastern New York Youth Soccer Association. 100,000 kids will have our app this spring. And a reward for a kid doing an exercise is we're working with the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team, Crystal Dunn, who you know, is I think in Portugal right now. Do the exercises, do the social aspect of it, encourage your friends, and a reward is a tip from a pro, a tip from Crystal Dunn, or a message from her what it's like to play soccer in Brazil. So that's the idea. We're into the market with it, and would love the feedback on how to be able to take it from 100,000 kids to the 40 million kids who play in sports in this country and keep them healthy, playing sports on the field, all the valuable life lessons. So we'll love the input.
Tell us again the name of the app.
It's at Peak, ATPEAK, at Peak. We want to keep all our kids at peak. Thanks.
That's a question here.
Yeah, my apologies if I missed it, but when we're talking about sports for all, obviously youth sports is a very big component, and the high percentage of kids that drop out every year. But there's also a whole bunch of others that never have had a chance to play or did lack the confidence and only played for a day or two. And so I hope we don't lose that in our conversation, that whole other group, because of the reduced amount of PE in school, kids aren't getting activity. And I find in my work that kids who are born in 1990 and after, you can't assume that they have any idea when you say, what sport would you like to play? In fact, I'm not sure that the kids I've worked with in Richmond, California, took me 2 weeks to realize when I was talking about play, they didn't know what I was talking about. So I think we have to realize that this sports for all is a lot bigger, even though obviously we want to do whatever we can to impact the youth sports market. And the last thing I'd say, and we're talking here not only about ideas, but I think we're talking about programs and processes. And one of them is that I think we get more out of asking kids to ask other kids these questions rather than we as adults asking them. And that has a lot to do with what I'm doing, but I'm not going to go on with that now.
Yeah, I think just to speak to that briefly, I think that's really is essentially what we're talking about here. We're trying to get those kids on the margins. I mean, it's really, we have the folks in the center, but it's really those kids at the margins, the kids with disabilities, girls, kids that are not being invited into the conversation or invited to actually be able to participate. And I think in some ways that's what this is about. You know, if we're not addressing those kids, then what's the point? I mean, if we're not really trying to get those kids at the margins, kids with disabilities, kids that may have more challenges to actually engage in play and sport, then I think we should all just shut down. Because in some ways, the most important thing we are trying to do with this conversation is to reach the kids that aren't able, and the reason why we have to ask those kids what they want is because oftentimes they don't have a voice. Oftentimes the kid with the disability, the girls, so forth, they aren't oftentimes asked. And so, I mean, that's why that's why I think a lot of us are here, because we really want to make sure that those kids are included and can really have a voice and have a presence to be able to engage. Because if you don't actually ask them, if you don't value them to be included, then you're leaving, like you said, exactly, you're leaving out a whole bunch of the...
Well, and there's a lot of suburban kids now that can't afford to play in a high school team. So, I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I was going to say something else, but I forgot it, and I think you wanted to change.
Erin,
I saw that you have a time limit, and I'm sorry to disrupt, but I think it's important to state. So is anyone here from Special Olympics? So I want to just voice something on behalf of intellectually disabled. And so by way of introduction, my name is Lou Rayola. I happen to represent Special Olympics as an agency. So I just see time's running out, and I want to lend a voice for those that are intellectually disabled. We have a unique opportunity coming up, the Summer Games. First time in 16 years, 7,000 athletes from 170 countries descending upon Southern California this July. I'm just wondering if an idea could be sparked with Whistle and Eli to showcase people with intellectual disabilities on your station or on your format. Could be pretty intriguing.
Agree. We're actually looking into that, and I think it's a wonderful idea. The key for us is executing it in a fun, entertaining way. So that's what we have to figure out.
and I will just add that I'm on the committee hosting the Danish swim team in Sullivan, California as they come to town. Erin, let me ask you, where do you go? Is there a forum that exists where you can ask other kids what they're liking about sport? Where do you go to talk sport?
Well, for me, I go to the DC Schools alumni meetings for that program. But at school, there's not, because they feel as though if you make the team, then you make the team. Then that's just within the team and only the team. And I feel as though we should make a program outside of the team for like other kids to come and join. And just in case, something happens to one kid, you have a backup player. And I feel as though you should open the opportunity for kids to come and speak up and to show that they want to join too, especially for disability kids. Because I have a friend, his name's Sean, and he has a disability. And he doesn't have the opportunity because kids bring down his self-esteem and bring down his confidence, so he's not strong enough to speak up and say he want to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I have a quick open access one? A lot of the things that we're hearing is access for a lot of kids, opening the doors after school. A lot of our schools are locked. So before we can even ask kids, we have to get them in the schools, get the fields open, get the schools open, particularly in communities that are really in need of this, and a lot of our lower income communities. So I think one idea may be making sure that as we get health and sports talking, get in the hands of sports groups the ways to work with schools to get shared use agreements, get these doors open, so you can bring the kids together so you can ask them.
Okay. Like that. Let's ask Bodhi, since he's a kid.
Well, one part about asking kids what they want is it's not just on like a level of like around around your house, like in the playground. It's also at the school level. And like a lot of schools, almost every school will have either a PTA or a PTO. So maybe if we had, instead of a parent-teacher organization, a parent-student organization. So like yesterday at the in the thing last night, we talked about inclusion, and if we included the students into the PTA, then we can have a bit more of what they want in the school. And my mom wants to add to that.
So I need to say something on that, because I thought that was an awesome idea when Bodie was talking about it. And one thing, Bodie got to see his new school, the junior high school, and he had an opportunity to go outside after his lunch when they were touring the school, and all that was out there was a concrete pad. And so he's like, well, what would I do out there? And that's how his school is now. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's just sad. Why can't schools have more balance beams or obstacle courses, really simple things? In my yard, there's a tree that's down, and whenever a friend comes over, what's the first thing they do? They want to walk across the tree, and it's free. There's a lot of cheap stuff out there, and I know our school doesn't have a lot of money to pay for those things, but it's really doable. Simple obstacle courses that even people with, they don't have to be complicated. People that have disabilities, even in wheelchairs, they can just go across lines or something. Some things could be made for that. And yeah, I think a student-parent association could help to organize activities like that.
All right, we've got an infographic that we need to put up on the screen, I think, yes. Or no, the board's coming up here. And unfortunately, this is something that I could talk about all day. I know everybody here is having a great time, but I think we need to bring the board up at this point. Do we have time for one more question while they're bringing the board up? There's one here.
It's okay, I have a loud voice. Okay, I'll use these. I'm Jessica Howard. It sounds like a lot of the panelists are talking about a wider scope of sport. And in that regard, I'm thinking about creativity, definitely grassroots drawing from the kids. A lot of the sports we're familiar with now came from people inventing sport. So if we're thinking about skateboarding or snowboarding. I'm curious, for places where maybe there aren't as many sports available as you'd like, how can we draw upon the creativity of kids to add to the arena of sport so that they can play? It might one day become an Olympic sport, but in the meantime, can they feel like it doesn't have to be a sport that someone else tells them is a sport?
I think part of that challenge is providing them the safe space to create these games. And Tom has often mentioned the riding his bike to the sandlot and playing pickup games and making up games. I think I know that I had that experience as a kid. And I'm not sure that kids today, not all of them certainly, have that space, a slab of concrete at the school, or to be inventive, to be creative. And so we need to address, I think, that before we're able to get to the point where we can.
I think a great sport would be like sitting volleyball. Like where sitting volleyball is a sport that anybody can play, whether you have a disability or not. So I think the ability to break down some of the barriers between boys and girls, kids with and without disabilities, by inventing or taking sports and reimagining them, I think that's very powerful.
And I would add, I think that they're doing that today. We have a channel for dunking. Dunking is basketball without dribbling. There are 100,000 subscribers globally. They have the community, so it's redefined community. It's not a physical place, it's a digital place. And they're passionate about dunking. They want it to be an Olympic sport. Slacklining, lacrosse, the fastest growing U.S. sport by participation. So lots of the non-top 5 sports, I think communities are springing up, and it's wonderful to see. And I think the creativity is the key ingredient.
We are not going to do the info board. We're going to do one more question. Yes, this gentleman here in the yellow tie has had his hand up.
Yeah, we do a lot of work with coaches. We do a lot of work with coaches, and sort of the reality is if you go out to an average youth soccer coach, I'm a mom or dad volunteering, maybe you get 2 hours a year to train at best. And if we look at like the fun maps,
Yeah.
but first we have to do safe sport, and then you want to be inclusive. How do we prioritize knowledge, and how do we get that volunteer? I mean, we're asking a volunteer to do an awful lot. I may not even know how to manage the kids. I may be trying to figure out offsides. And then I'm hit with all this. Like, what's the essentials, and how do we maybe get them that information? What are there new ideas coming forth in that light?
So, can I speak to that? So one of the things that we want to do is take everything that we've learned from the fun maps, the not fun maps, and integrate them into an application so that coaches that are time limited, organizations that are also time limited or resource limited have access to this information, right? So it's not just me going out and trying to inform everyone about all this great data and information that we can use to make sport more engaging and a more positive experience for kids, but now you put it in the hands of the coaches, in the hands of the parents, and even the kids. So if we have an app that is stakeholder driven, right, then you have organizations that can also collect real-time data on these positive experiences as they're happening. And from the fun maps, if we can then validate the instruments that we're developing that measure fun and that measure all of the obstacles to fun, that at any given point in time, we can measure that. And then if we can measure it, we can act upon it. So we can highlight the strengths of a coach, of a parent, of a community, and reward that and reinforce it, right? But we can also then identify all of the challenges, and we can work and inform policy and modify things so that, again, we're better meeting people's, not just people, but kids' needs, right? Because let's face it, youth sport is for them. It's not for us. And we've largely lost sight of that. So if we can be creative, right, with technology and with research and integrate all of these things across the 8 sectors, then I think that's a multi-pronged approach that, we're fighting that problem with multiple solutions across the board. So it's a very synergetic effect, I think.
And addressing the safe sport, I would like to point out, I think it was an idea that emerged from one of the roundtable meetings through the Aspen Institute, getting a medical professional on a youth sport board, that they can somehow find a volunteer to be on the sidelines. I think that's an important part. That's all the time that we have. Thank you very much to our panelists and to all of you. One more question.
As mentioned earlier, we're going to we've invited certain groups to make announcements about what's their play. You'll hear about several of them during the day, and then 8 of them at the end of the day. But we'd like to have Whistle Sports tell us about what their play is right now. Brian, we should take a minute.
Great. Everybody, I'm Brian Sealander. I'm EVP. Get a chance to work with my friend John here at Whistle Sports. The great part about asking kids for their advice is they're more than happy to yell it and scream it and share it across social media platforms on an ongoing basis through what they see, share, and create. We're blessed with 64 million fans and followers across social media platforms, growing by a few million a week. And so our commitment is to bring these incredible ideas directly to our community, to get a chance to hear from them about what they're hearing, sharing, feeling, and doing, and then to come back at future Aspen Institute Project Play Summits to let you know what's on their mind so that we can adjust, react, and engage them every single time we get a chance to come together. And that's our commitment from Whistle Sports.